And a Swindon woman is backing a campaign to raise awareness and money to develop a new test for Lyme disease. Joanna Basket, who suffers from the condition, is concerned that many cases of the disease are being misdiagnosed. She says that doctors need to be more mindful about the condition.
Doctors are saying that, it's become fashionable to have Lyme disease, and they just look at you and they will not take you seriously. And this is what doctors need to do. They need to listen to their patients. We know our bodies better than anybody.
A North Yorkshire man is campaigning for a new test in the UK to diagnose Lyme disease. Mark Herridge from Sherburn in Elmet believes he caught it from a bite over 20 years ago, but went through many years of misdiagnosis. If left untreated, Lyme can cause persistent symptoms, including aches, pains and tiredness. Mark says there's a lack of awareness of the condition among British doctors.
I then approached my doctors about this because of all the previous diagnoses I'd had. He actually said, no, you won't have Lyme disease. So they did a Lyme test in the UK. It came back negative. So then I paid personally to have my blood sample sent off to the States, and they came back borderline positive.
A Brighton woman's calling on the government to raise awareness of Lyme disease. Dawn Blake suffers from the condition and has signed a petition calling for improved diagnosis and treatment. There are around 2,000 to 3,000 cases each year. The condition is spread to humans from infected ticks. Dawn told Juicy action needs to be taken.
What we're hoping is that the NHS will start to look at this as a matter of priority, and my hope is that other people in the future don't have to go through long-term chronic illness when it's actually unnecessary.
A woman suffering from Lyme disease in South Manchester is concerned other people in her position could be wrongly given the all clear. 36-year-old Holly never received an NHS diagnosis for the condition after her results came back negative. However, she's since received treatment and is on the road to recovery. Holly's critical of the care she received from the health service after doctors weren't able to find a cause for her symptoms.
I had still hoped I might be able to find something that might indicate a way of helping to resolve it, but unfortunately the doctors weren't supportive enough and didn't have enough education about Lyme.
Public Health England say the symptoms are similar to other conditions and diagnosing Lyme disease is often difficult.
A woman from Herefordshire is calling for the NHS to improve how they treat and diagnose people with Lyme disease. It's a relatively common condition with about 2,000 people getting it every year from infected ticks. Carol Smith from Much Markle had all the common symptoms, but it took doctors decades to diagnose her. She reckons it's because there isn't enough awareness about it.
3 years ago, I was bedbound and I could barely stand. And to be truthful, the GP wasn't interested. And the treatment has made the difference that, I'm up, I'm out and about. So many of my symptoms have just disappeared.
It's claimed hospitals in Sussex are unprepared for a serious tick-borne infection, despite cases rising. A petition's calling for the NHS to have better ways of spotting and treating Lyme disease. Claudia Fisher from Brighton says she developed the condition from a bite while gardening. She says tests didn't pick it up, leaving her to struggle with the symptoms.
I just felt so tired. I've had taken to sleeping in the day. It's affected my business, it's affected my personal life. I've not been able to manage properly, looking after my children as much, with as much energy as I would normally.
There's concern experts in Sussex aren't properly equipped should someone you love get Lyme disease. A petition's demanding better tests and ways of treating the condition are developed in the UK. Nathan Hoskins says he became really ill with Lyme disease, suffering fatigue and paralysis. The 31-year-old from Brighton says he ended up spending his entire savings to treat it himself.
If I'd known then what I know now, I would have gone straight down the doctors, as I would implore anyone to do if they get that rash. A course of antibiotics that early on probably would have made all the difference.
A Darlington mum is campaigning for an advance in medical testing. Louise Albin's daughter has Lyme disease, but misdiagnosis meant she missed out on the treatment which could have cured the condition. Now Louise has joined campaigners across the country to find a new test for the disease, meaning faster and more accurate treatment. She spoke to us about how depressing it is for the family to deal with.
The lack of understanding is one of the most difficult things that Lyme patients have to deal with. Lyme is invisible. You can't see that the person has Lyme. They have no rashes. They have no observable symptoms.
You can hear the campaign song and find out how to help on our website at starradio.co.uk.
Campaigners here on the East Coast are petitioning the government for better testing to find cases of Lyme disease. The Fight Lyme Now campaign says current ways to detect infections aren't good enough and many people are getting the wrong diagnosis. Denise Longman, who suffered from the disease for 30 years, explained to The Beach what needs to be done.
So far, the maximum pickup rate is only 30% in the very best labs. So we want to maybe combine it with the antibody tests and the immune response tests so that you've got a battery of tests which say that person is still infected.
You can find out more on the news pages of our websites.
One of the things that I am concerned with is blood transfusions. You're relying on people themselves, if they know they've got Lyme, not to give blood. But if you ask a blood transfusion people, they would say, oh, well, if you've been treated, you're over it. I am convinced it can get into the blood supply.
And finally, Lyme disease, or Lyme borreliosis, is a bacterial infection spread to humans by infected ticks. But it seems so much more could be done to identify the disease earlier and thus save a lot of unnecessary suffering. Someone who is a sufferer himself and a campaigner to raise awareness is Dimitrios Dimitriou, and he talks to LGR this morning. Good morning to you, Dimitrios.
Good morning, Michael. Thank you for your call.
How are you today?
I'm alive. I'm alive and I'm surviving.
Well, that's good.
Surviving.
Before we talk about the Lyme disease, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my parents are originally from the north of Cyprus. They were rendered refugees by the Turkish invasion of 1974. I was raised here. Subsequently, I used to be a primary school teacher up until 2012, before the Lyme disease manifested to a degree that I just couldn't continue working.
Okay, Dimitrios, just tell us, for people that maybe don't know, what is Lyme disease?
Well, as you said, it's a bacterial infection that's transmitted by the bite of an infected tick. The germ has been found in other biting insects, including mosquitoes, but more evidence, more research is needed to confirm whether that transmission is possible. It can also be transferred from mother to fetus. There's also research needed to confirm whether it's transmitted sexually through sexual contact.
Now, you have this, and I understand you picked it up on a field trip with the school, possibly.
That's right. Well, yes, I was in Oxfordshire doing my teacher training. I was working at a school in Banbury, and I believe we did go to a farm. But it was during that period that I developed the flu-like symptoms, or summer flu-like symptoms, a headache, a fever, and an abdominal rash, or a rash on my abdomen. But unfortunately, my GP missed it and gave me an antifungal, whereas he should have given me antibiotics immediately.
And how was
a bite as well on my right calf.
How has this affected your life, this disease?
It's just devastating. It's affected. It would obviously put an end to my career, my teaching career. Affected my heart. That was the most worrying symptoms. A heart block, bradycardia. I mean, the symptoms are endless. ENT problems, skin problems, immune problems, gastrointestinal problems, joint problems. I could go on forever. Some people experience MS / stroke like symptoms.
Now, why are we not up to speed in the UK on this, and what needs to be done?
Well, the scientists that are involved in the campaign that I and another colleague, Denise Longman, have been involved in setting up, would like to develop a more reliable test. At the moment, the test that's offered on the NHS measures, it's an antibody test, and it measures the immune response to the pathogen, but it's just this pathogen seems to evade that. It's not a reliable test. That's it, in short, basically. We need a better test.
And so what are you doing? I understand you're involved with a campaign to raise awareness,
yes,
and also to hopefully to wake up the NHS to actually work a way of finding this or diagnosing this a little bit earlier.
We're in touch with Neil Coyle MP, Labour MP for Southwark and Old Southwark and Bermondsey, and he's requested a survey which took months to construct with the help of the scientists. He's supporting this survey and hoping the statistics will be enough, or a credible sample of statistics will be enough for him to lobby for change in Parliament. At the moment, we've got close to 250 patients that have completed the survey, but we need many, many more, close to 1,000. And this is why we're reaching out to the community, asking them to please complete the survey if you have Lyme disease, have had Lyme disease, have been treated, or have Lyme-like or symptoms associated with Lyme disease. It's so important that as many people as possible complete this survey. The statistics will go to Neil Coyle, a summary of it, and that will be used to lobby for change in Parliament.
How can people actually actively get involved with this? Is there a website? Is there somewhere they can contact you?
We have a campaign page on ucaring.com, and I believe your LGR will make that available on their homepage, I'm hoping. We also have a parliamentary petition that's been approved, and we've had over 2,000 signatures in the past 10 days, which is fantastic. But once again, we need close to 10,000 in order to get a formal response from the government. We also have a campaign song to raise awareness. Please do share this. It's free to download as well. And also the two scientists involved in the study, Dr. Christopher Newton and Dr. Armin Schwarzbach in Germany, would like to develop a new test based on cutting-edge DNA technology. But we do need money for the equipment, to pay staff, and so we're asking people to make a voluntary donation.
Dimitris, thank you so much for talking to us this morning and enlightening what is clearly something that needs more to be done about it and more recognition.
It's a very dangerous infection.
And we wish you well with your treatment as well in the future.
Thank you very, very much, and thank you to everyone who's listening.
Believe me, it's our pleasure.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And a campaign has been set up called Fight Lyme Now to develop a new test for Lyme disease. Joanne Baskett from Swindon is currently living with the condition and is frustrated with it not being taken seriously. She's been suffering for over 2 decades after being bitten by a mosquito on holiday in America.
I knew I'd been bitten in the States, went to the doctor. They told me it was ringworm and gave me antifungal creams, and they didn't go away. And then sort of 4 or 5 years after that, constant periods of ill health, and they diagnosed me with chronic fatigue.
Campaigners here on the East Coast are petitioning the government for better testing to find cases of Lyme disease. The Fight Lyme Now campaign says current ways to detect infections aren't good enough, and many people are getting the wrong diagnosis. Denise Longman, who suffered from the disease for 30 years, explained to The Beach what needs to be done.
So we want to combine it with the antibody tests and the immune response tests, so that you've got a battery of tests which say that person is still infected.
I was left with this continual fatigue, arthritic knees, brain fog, and gradually getting worse. And then I started researching Lyme and realised that the NHS tests were not very good at picking it up. So I went and had private tests done, and you talk to doctors generally, and they look at you as if you're potty. I went to see one gastroenterologist because so many parts of your body are affected with this that you see so many different types of consultants, and one of them wanted to send me to see a psychiatrist, which I flatly refused.
Lyme disease is notoriously difficult to diagnose, so a Darlington mum is campaigning to develop a new, more accurate test for the condition. The disease is spread by tick bites, and if caught early, it can be treated very effectively. But undiagnosed, as was the case with Louise Albansdaughter, it leaves severe and long-term symptoms. Louise explains some of them.
Things like muscle aches and pains, nerve pains, problems seeing, headaches, brain fog, difficulty concentrating, difficulty remembering things. Depression is a common symptom.
Hear the campaign song and find out more on Lyme disease and how to help at our website at starradio.co.uk.
A woman from Coventry is backing a campaign to improve treatment for people with Lyme disease. It took almost 3 years for Angie Ash to be diagnosed, as she says doctors didn't know about the condition.
They never had any answers, really, and they weren't willing to treat when even they had test results that indicate I needed to be treated. None of them knew very much about Lyme at all, to the point that my GP says every time I come in it's an education.
Well, Lyme disease is relatively common, with about 2,000 people getting it every year from infected ticks. It's really affected Angie's health, and she wants a new test to be introduced so people can be diagnosed quicker.